Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karen Pivnick, and my company is called TopCat. We are an organizing company. We help people organize their homes, we help them downsize, and we help people move. And we have a specialty niche working with baby boomers and seniors who are making these later life transitions. It's a very, it's a very involved, difficult process for people, but we help demystify what actually needs to be done, and we get people moving. So I am delighted to be here today, and I thank Mary for inviting me. So at TopCat, we believe that right-sizing your life and home is an integral part of having a successful retirement. So my goal as a professional organizer and senior move manager is to take the worry out of downsizing and moving. I realize that some of you may not be moving in the future. Some of you may absolutely have no plans at all of moving. But I do know for sure, if you're sitting here, that you are interested in simplifying your life and perhaps doing some downsizing. We postpone decisions like perhaps making a move, moving to a smaller place, something that is more suitable to the way we're living right now, is because we've got so much stuff. We've accumulated a lot over our lifetimes, and we just never get rid of it. So first and foremost, what we want to do is we want to start working on it now. We want to give ourselves lots of decisions or lots of time to make decisions. So why not put yourself in a position of control so that you can potentially, maximize the opportunity to sell your home for a good price, to allow yourself to have, freedom and freedom in your retirement so that you can live and have a good life and it's meaningful to you. So before I continue, I'd like to take a poll and ask you how many people have lived in their house for 10 years. You can raise up hands. 20 years? 30? I'm the only one. And 40 and so on. So this is not necessarily a contest that we want to always win. So in 40 years, things have changed. 40 years ago, a gallon of gas was 35 cents. It's now a liter. We measure things in liters. The average price of a new car was about $3,800. And ATM machines, the green machines, were introduced it was about 40 years ago, and we all got our first PIN numbers. 40 years ago, the average house price was around anywhere from $28,000 to $45,000. You could send a letter for 8 cents, and there were no female justices of the peace at that time in the Supreme Court. 40 years ago, private employers wouldn't hire a woman with preschool-aged children. They, in many cases, wouldn't hire young women. Because they were going to get married and have children. You could go to university for $2,800 a year, and milk bottles were delivered to your house. And I'm old enough to remember when they came. I lived in a small town. It came with a horse and wagon. I was very young, but anyways, that was a reality. Things have changed a lot in 40 years, 50 years, and the biggest change is all of us. People have changed. So when we bought a small house, we started with a small house, and many people, they might upsize 2, 3, 4 times. We moved to a certain area because we wanted to have a big house with a big yard and good schools for our children. Our neighbors were mostly our age, and when everyone on the block knew each other. Now all of the kids have grown up and they've moved away. We don't use most of the rooms that are in our large homes, and we hardly know our neighbors. Now we're referred to as empty nesters. And a lot of our friends have moved away too. So when we first bought our house, everything fit in a car or a small truck. Today, every room is full, and we have a lot, like way too much stuff. We don't know when we accumulated it all, but today we don't even know where to start and how to make some changes. And next slide. We used to have, love to have like garden, and we planted perennials and annuals and big vegetable gardens, and taking care of it took up a lot of time, but we took a lot of pride in the garden. And I remember living in a small town, and that was my parents' pride and joy. They really loved and enjoyed doing that. But today, now we're living in homes that are perhaps too much larger than we actually need. The housework and the yard work is becoming more difficult to maintain. And for a lot of people, it's simply we're involved with so many different things that we really don't want to take the time to do that. Taxes and carrying costs, maintenance fees have increased so much. So it costs a lot to keep a house going. When we moved to our homes years ago, next one, we had lots of stairs in the house. And back then, when you bought the house, you never thought anything about the stairs. I run up and down the stairs, and I don't think anything of it. It never fazed me. And then split level houses, people say, oh, they don't have a lot of stairs, but actually everywhere you go in a split level, there's some stairs. And lots of people have bad knees, and these stairs really they're a challenge. But if we lived in an apartment or a condo or a bungalow, our knees wouldn't hurt so much, and we'd be we'd be freer. The next one is the kids. They're also a challenge. We're still warehousing their things from college. And I had an experience a couple of weeks ago. A good friend of mine phoned me, and he said, I need some advice on how to empty and get rid of the things in my mother's apartment, because she had to go to a retirement home for health reasons. And he showed me this storage room, and it was filled with his college books, like all his university books, things from several houses that he's moved, and he had this warehoused his mother's place, so he was totally embarrassed about that. But the kids, even they may want to help you, but they're too busy, so you're waiting for them. And when they do come, they come in like a tornado. They want to do everything really fast. They argue with you. They may say, what do you want to keep that for? They'll refer to your belongings in derogatory terms. And quite often my clients find that very hurtful. And you always have to keep an eye on them, because some things that are really important to you, they hold lots of memories, and you're constantly worried about the family perhaps throwing things out that you want. The next one is when it comes to selling your house. Back when we bought our houses maybe 40 years ago. I bought mine 30 years ago. It was really simple. I found a house, I bought it, and that was it. I bought it as is, and I was prepared to roll up my sleeves and renovate that home. Today, when you put a house on the market, it's not that simple. You have to get it ready. It has to appeal to the people that are going to buy it. So we don't really have time for that. You may be working part-time. You may be still looking after children. You may have older parents that you're looking after. So getting the home ready for sale is going to take up a lot of time, and you really don't think you're going to get through that realtor's list. So if we were going to make a change and simplify our lives, this is the time to do it. There's lots of equity in the home. We've worked hard all of these years to get to this stage. We want to think ahead about this retirement process. You want to pursue things. You may want to move to a small dream home. You may want to travel. You may want to be closer to your grandchildren, to your families. You may finally want to decide that you're going to, take up a hobby or volunteer. So, next. So what's stopping you? That. And that was one of my clients, and that's a real life situation that I deal with all the time. So the problem with us today is that we continue to accumulate, and we are no longer, when we're no longer interested in something, we don't get rid of it. We move it to another room. We may put it in the attic. We put it in the garage. So what do I mean by this? You know, how many of you have a bread machine or an appliance that that you no longer use? It's collecting dust, or you may have 3 or 4 sets of pots. Are you using them? And you haven't got rid of them. And then what about a punch bowl with you remember punch bowls? I mean, I loved my mother's punch bowl. I'd love to play with it. How many of you had, TV sets that are no longer working? Anyone have ink cartridges from a printer that they no longer have? You have phone chargers and phones that you're no longer using. And my favorite are the bags. The bag of bags and plastic bags stuffed underneath the cupboards, taking up entire cupboards. And they breed. And I had one client not so long ago that she had so many bags in the cupboard for so many years that the plastic had already started to disintegrate. So, yes. How many of you have so much stuff in your garage that you can't park your car in the garage? This is very common. And then there's other things that I find that are, the theater programs from 40 years ago. And then all the little plastic bread ties, there's tons of those. Like, people just can't let go of these things. So none of us are guilt-free. It doesn't matter how old we are, where we are, this is what we do. Next slide. So if I were to give you a recipe, say you came to my house and I made this fabulous meal and you said, Karen, please, I'd love to have your recipe. Wouldn't you want to take my recipe, so that it would be successful, you would have all the ingredients and you could just follow it and be able to replicate that meal? So what I'll be sharing with you today is a proven recipe as an organizer and a move manager. I've worked with many people who have moved into smaller quarters, and people who have actually made the move, but then there's lots of people that want to stay in their homes, but they need help getting rid of things. They need to perhaps repurpose things. They need to reorganize how they're living in their homes. So if you follow these steps, you're going to save yourself a lot of frustration. You're going to actually get something done. You're going to save yourself some money if you move. And you can also get yourself, a better price for your house without all of the stress. So this recipe for downsizing has 10 ingredients. And while you don't always need, they don't need to be done necessarily in the sequence that I'm giving them to you, but it's very important that you do them all or consider using most of them. So step 1 in cooking is to gather all of your ingredients, decide what you're going to need. Step 1 in downsizing is to develop a plan, a picture of everything you're going to need to accomplish and deal with your belongings. You will need to sort through your belongings, identify the things that you do want to keep with you, and find solutions for the things that you don't necessarily want to have. If you're moving, you're going to need a floor plan. You're going to have to find movers that you can trust. You need to get packing supplies and find a way to have your things move safely. In addition to listing the ingredients required, many recipes will tell you at the beginning how much time you're going to need and how soon you should start your preparation. And this does the same. So if you are planning, you're starting your planning process, you need to plan for at least 100 hours to sort through and make decisions about your belongings. And this means identifying and documenting what goes with you, what you want to keep, and what is going to go to other places and who it's going to go to. You're going to need another 20 hours or more to address selling and donating, gifting, and disposing of the things that you don't need. And if all of your decisions have been made in advance, and you have all the supplies that you need, like packing and unpacking is going to take you another 40 to 6 hours. And you'll probably need about 50 to 120 boxes if you're going to make this transition. I would like to see those numbers reduced, but on average, that's what happens. So if this sounds like a lot of work, it is. And you've spent decades of time accumulating all of your things. You didn't accumulate them overnight, and it's going to take time to go through them and make decisions. But knowing the big picture of what you're going to be doing is going to make it go faster. So it's really important that you do it and start now. Okay. So step 2 is to think strategic. Chances are that your home is going to be your biggest asset. So you want to make the most of it. How many people have ever sold a car in this room? Yes. Okay. So if you sold a car, okay. What did you do to get that car ready for sale? You probably removed any personal things. You cleaned it thoroughly inside and out. When you drove the car, you may have used a back pillow in the back seat. You had CDs, you had electronics, you had tissue. There's all kinds of paper and what have you. But in order to sell it, you removed all of that so that the potential buyer could see the car for what it was. Most people have spent more time cleaning out and preparing their car for sale than they would for actually, cleaning and decluttering their home. Today's buyers are, for your current home, are probably 25 to 40 years old. This generation grew up with IKEA, Pottery Barn, Martha Stewart. When they look at a home, they're going to do it through the internet, through an internet search before they actually come out to see your place. In other words, your home has to be looking really good so that when they're looking at these videos, these virtual tours, they're going to see something that appeals to them. So what does working strategically mean? It means doing first things first. If your realtor wants to list the house in a month, your focus might be decluttering closets and bedrooms, a living room and dining room, the kitchen. These are the places that people are going to look at first. And then afterwards, you can go into the areas, like once these parts of the house are ready, then you can go to the attics and the garages and start working on that and cleaning those places out. So, and you can do it that way. Some people decide that they're going to move out first and then they're going to put their house on the market. The third step is to create a floor plan. A floor plan helps you visualize your current belongings in that place. You might start off with just drawing things out on a piece of paper to have an idea of what this might look like. But when you actually know, when you're making decisions on choosing things, you should actually have a floor plan. You need to measure your furniture. You need to measure the space because you want to make sure that everything is going to fit properly. And by doing this, you're going to eliminate costly mistakes of having to move something to another place. It takes, like if you get a bunch of furniture into a new home and you don't know where it's going to go, it doesn't fit, and then the movers have to start moving things around, that adds more cost. When you envision a move, there is a hierarchy to this process. Most of us need to have this big picture focus and can focus on sorting our belongings. The floor plan So the floor plan does provide the big picture. And I had a client, she said to me, "Oh, I'm going to just take my china cabinet and I'm not taking the sideboard that goes with it." But in that sideboard, there was 2 sets of china and all the other accessories that went with it. So I had to say to her, "Where are you going to put these things?" So you have to think all of this through. But if your move is far in the future, you may not be moving at all. People will say to me, "Well, should I start decluttering? Should I start trying to downsize now? And the answer to this is absolutely. We should all be chipping away at this little by little when we've got some time to do it. Okay, so step 4, and then so I'm addressing the time, is to think about how much time you're going to be spending on this. And for many of us, the move may be in a few months, it may be next year. You do need to allocate some time on reducing this. So, on average, I'll say to people, well, set aside 15 minutes. It could be 15 minutes a day, could be once a week, could be once a month. You may decide on a Sunday afternoon that you're going to do one area. And it's very overwhelming if you look at the whole house. Excuse me. You look at the whole house and you get overwhelmed. Like I can go into someone's house and can be totally overwhelmed, but I can't do that. I have to break it down into smaller tasks. So for instance, you would take a kitchen and you might say, okay, today I'm going to go through all of my spices and I'm going to do that. The next day I'm going to do the baking pans, and the third day I'm going to do the coffee mugs and the thermoses and so on. So let's take your spices. How many of you have McCormick spices in your cupboards? Any of you? Okay. Okay. So other than pepper, McCormick's has not produced spices in tins, so I hope you don't have any tins in there, Mary, since 1999. So if you have any spice tins in your cupboard, they're probably 16 years old. So you need to get rid of those. Okay. Another tip that people, with clothing, and I mean, this is, we have to go through our clothing, and nobody wants to take them out of the cupboard and try them on. So, I say, okay, seasonal clothing, put everything, have the hangers facing one way. Doesn't matter if it's forward or backward, have them all going one way. The end of the and every time you wear something, turn it the opposite way. So at the end of the season, you look at your clothing, your cupboard, and all of the things that you haven't worn are there. You should maybe consider getting rid of them or donating them to somebody or giving them away, okay? So step 5 is when you're moving, we always say sort first and don't pack. One of the first things that people do is they decide that they're going to start packing. That's it. It's just like, okay, I'm moving, I'm going to pack. But packing is easier. It's easier to do that, but when you actually have to take the time to sort through things, people don't want to do that, and they avoid it. So if you were moving this year, you might be moving this year, you might be going next year, might be 2017. If you can pack something now and not need it until you move, that pretty much tells you something. You don't need these things. Sometimes people will say, I have access to my apartment or my condo now. I'm going to start gradually taking things over. And I don't recommend this. It's pointless because you keep moving things over and you actually lose track of what you've got, and you're not getting rid of some things that you actually don't need. So the task that really needs to get done in advance is sorting, whether you're moving or not. What happens when sorting is not done by pack day, you're ending up with more boxes, which cost more money to move. And if you're hiring a professional packer, it's going to cost you more money to do that. So you can guess which clients have the lowest invoice if they've sorted first. Okay. Number six is do a reality check. You may have in your new condo, you may have huge walk-in closets. And in reality, if you measure the linear footage, you may have 30 feet of linear space to hang things. So if you go home and you measure up your closets of clothing and so on, and you see that you've got 50 feet of linear hanging space in the whole place and it's all full, that's not going to fit into your closets, in your new closet. So you want to address that before you actually make a move. Another thing is this, the storage lockers. This, when you're moving into say a condo, and people will, I love the ones that don't tell me, they neglect to tell me. When I first started, I never asked about the storage lockers. And the last minute they'll say to me, oh, I've got stuff in the storage locker. Well, now I always address it, but people lose perspective of what they can actually fit in a storage locker. So what I do with them in their current home, say if a storage locker is 4 feet wide, it might be 6 feet long and 7 feet high. I tape it out on a floor, and I say to them, this is how much space you've got. So whatever you're taking that's extra needs to fit in that space. So that's a bit of a reality check. So if you do all of these things, you are in better control. So speaking of control, step 7, how many of you, are warehousing your children's things? Yes, there's a few people here. In our experience, adult children don't respond subtly, and it takes time for them to realize that they need to respond to you, but they don't. So one of my clients, she found a solution. She kept saying to her kids, you've got to get your things out of here. Your dad and I are moving, and they still didn't listen to her. So when they went off to work, she had packaged things up and she just dropped it off on the front porch, and that was it. So I had another guy, he said, oh, to hell with the kids. I'm going to keep everything here, and when I'm no longer around, this is their punishment, their payback, that they're going to have to deal with all of these things. And then there's this situation where about giving things to your kids, like all the time, I hear this, I'd like my daughter to have this and my son to have that, and they don't want things because they've got homes of their own. They've lived on their own for such a long period of time, so they don't really want things. And aside from family heirlooms, I think people should really just consider getting rid of things through donation, or if they want to sell things. There's lots of people out there that need and want things. So it just reduces everyone's stress. So once again, take control, give your kids a deadline so that they make plans and to get things out, or you can make plans to get things out, and then it's easier for everyone. So number 8 is, if you are moving, is to design your move. There is no rule that you need to move one day and unpack the next, or you need to sell your house first before you're moving. But there's lots of vacant houses that are sold successfully every day. And if you thought of getting rid of your, think of it as being overwhelming, it can be, but just, you're in charge. Always remember that you're in charge. You can move out first, you can come back, and I often advise people to do that, is to make their moves first, and then they can come back to the home and they can, bring back some things maybe that they didn't really need, or they can pick up some things that they would find, beneficial and they forgot to take. And then another example of this, like some of my elderly clients, they're taking medications, and we may, some of our parents might be in the situation. They're taking medications, makes them really groggy in the morning. I have a few clients that have Parkinson's, and so it's really Parkinson's disease. It's very difficult for them to become mobile in the morning. So you can tell people that I want this move to happen in the afternoon. We're always in charge, and we just need to remember that. And then I've had some clients that they don't want to do anything with their move, and so they want us to take care of everything. So we get them packed, we get them moved, we unpack, we set up their kitchens, make their beds, we hang up the artwork, TVs are connected, and they come back and everything is done for them. And we call that I'd rather be on vacation move. So, okay. And step number 9 is really to forgive yourself. Like, some people are very hard, they set on themselves. They set certain schedules. They may not actually meet it. It's okay. You may recycle things 365 days a year. If you happen to not do that once in a while, that's fine. Yes, so you've worked very hard at this. Things that you had hoped to deal with, there's, like I said before, there's no problem in donating things because people need to have things. There's never anything that is too good to donate. There's lots. I hear that's too good to donate. So what's wrong with giving something to somebody would make them feel good? So as you downsize and prepare, perhaps to move, you will make hundreds of decisions, and you're going to do a really good job of this. And you may not accomplish everything that you wanted to do all at once, but you've done an awful lot, and it's very important to recognize that and pat yourself on the back. So step 10 is you may consider hiring a professional to help you. Professional companies provide hands-on help. They help you stay in control as you have to deal with the physical and the emotional decisions of downsizing and decluttering and moving. And most of all, when you hire a professional company, we're all objective. We're not judgmental, and we sincerely have our clients' needs in like their better interests in mind. And professional companies should be insured. They should be bonded, and they should have some certification and accreditation, and what that means is that they're a step above somebody who's just decided, I'm going to start doing this. They understand the psyche and what's involved with a later life transition. We have to abide by code of ethics set out by our examining parties, and we have policies and procedures in place that help us run our businesses better. So to end, a professional company can help you with, to develop a detailed plan and timeline. We help make scaled floor plans. We provide hands-on sorting and decluttering help. We provide resources, for selling, for donations, if you're clearing a house or getting a house ready for sale. We help with that. We refer movers that are good. We use them ourselves. We trust them. And we can help pack and unpack your entire home. And people will ask us, professional companies, how, they charge. It depends on the project. Some will be by the hour. But if it's a bigger project, they will give a cost estimate and approximate timing. Most companies will offer like a 1 to 2 hour complimentary assessment so that you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. So on a closing note, by simplifying your life, you're on the right path to having a successful retirement. And I'm a firm believer that we need to get rid of all these things that are cluttering our lives, all these material things, so that we can pursue all the things that give us, fuel our passions and give us happiness, no matter what it is. We don't want to wait till we're elderly and we just don't have the capacity to make these decisions, and it's just overwhelming, and it just adds too much stress. So you want to take charge of everything and start working on it now. Well, that's it. Thank you. Okay.